Hello, my loves. How are you? I have a little bit of time before I have some contractors working on my home. So I have a little bit of time to hop on. And I wanted to talk about trauma. I know it's not a fun subject, but it's something that we have all experienced. It's something that trauma is misunderstood. And I really want to kind of dive into it just for a little bit of time and explain to you what trauma is, what the truth of trauma is, and how we heal it. This falls along the lines of dealing with PTSD or severe anxiety, overwhelm, all of those things, why we aren't manifesting our desires, even though we've done all the things, right? Why we're not calling in the relationships that bring us joy and give us thriving experiences, right? Sometimes we get frustrated. I know I did. And so I want to talk about this for a moment today and bring a little bit of light to it. So if you're hopping on, say hello, let me know where you're watching from. And if you're watching, if you catch the replay, hashtag it replay, let me send you some love. And take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you're new to us. So what is trauma? What is trauma really? Because when most people think of the word trauma, they think big events, right? They think 9/11, they think mass shootings, they think abuse in your family, right? Like sexual abuse or physical abuse. And why, of course, all of those things are trauma. I mean, they absolutely are. They're very big traumas. It doesn't mean that the day you were coloring and your dad walked by and yanked that coloring book out and said, "You can't color today." It doesn't mean that that experience in itself, that very small thing that most people would not consider trauma, actually is a traumatic experience, right? And the key here is to understand that trauma is not what happens to us, it's what happens inside of us, right? So it's not, I'm going to say that again. Trauma is not, it is not what happens to us. It is not the event itself. It's not the experience itself. It's what happens inside of us. It is our response and our reaction to whatever is happening, right? Even us witnessing something, right, is traumatic, can be traumatic. And I bring this up because I've had many clients that are like, my life is good. I have no reason to feel this way. I have no reason to feel unworthy. I had a great childhood. I wasn't abused, right? But again, at some point in this experience, you may have had something that happened that isn't considered a big trauma, yet had a traumatic experience on the inside of you. The other pieces of this are we carry in our cells, inside of our body, 7 generations preceding us. 7. In addition to all the information from all the lives that we are living or have lived. That's a lot of information. Our cells are like giant hard drives, and it just stores all the information at a very compacted level. I shared on an interview that I did yesterday with the host a great example of this, right? So the earth has 12 dimensions outside of it, and it has all this information within its field, right? In its energetic field. All of this, all the information that we do, all the information of all that's ever lived there, all the information of the universe, it has this huge field. And what it does is it expands and then it contracts, and it takes all of that information and contracts it down into precious metals, into crystals, right? And it stores it at a very compacted level. This is why certain crystals are so healing and people have such crazy experiences, is because inside these crystals is a ton of information, a shit ton of information. So we are the universe within the universe. And everything in our field, we are constantly collecting information, right? And again, all lifetimes, all realities within our field is being collected and compacted into our cells. And then the cells, obviously, the information that gets passed down at conception. So let me give you a great example, and I want you to understand. So for me personally, I've talked about this a little bit. I have felt most of my life a deep sense of shame about my body, and not about my weight, but or how I looked necessarily, but about my body in general. I felt this urge to always protect my body, always. I never felt comfortable naked. I never felt comfortable exposing myself, right? And almost as if I had been sexually abused. And while I make it no secret that I have experienced sexual trauma, it wasn't as a child or molestation or anything like that. There was no hard evidence of any of that kind of thing. And so I never quite understood why I was feeling that in my body until I discovered that the shame that was in my cells, the shame that my body was responding to, wasn't even mine. It was my grandmother's, passed down through my mom. And as a child, she was, and nobody knew this until it was cleared from my cells. I was able to share this information with my family. She was molested as a young girl. And back then, that was not something they talked about. It was swept under the rug, and she spent a lifetime carrying that pain. And that was transferred into my cells, right? This is why we say when you heal yourself, you heal the world. You heal your whole line, right? I was able to bring light and healing to my family line with that information. And this took me on another journey of understanding when I was channeling and preparing for a class a couple of weeks ago. This information came through that blew my mind. And it's like, looking back, it's like, yeah, I knew that, but I didn't really understand that. And it was that when we are manifesting, when we are communicating with the universal flow of all that is, a lot of times people think, oh, I have to just change my mindset. If I continuously speak it, it will show up in my reality. And there is some truth to that, right? And if I really feel it, which is what I teach, right? If you feel that energy, if you feel that truth, you tap into the emotions, then you are using your feeling, right? You're allowing your energy to speak to the universe. But when I when I was channeling for this course, the information came through of it is literally your cells that are vibrating. And the vibration of those cells is what is communicating with the universe. And I thought, holy shit, this makes so much sense because I was having so much inner conflict in my mind, right? In my cognitive mind, I knew I was worthy. I knew I was enough. I knew what I brought to the table. I knew what I brought to my relationships, to my family. I knew what I brought to my clients. I knew I had a purpose in this life. Yet, when I would go to do something, my body would go into contraction. My body would feel a weird energy. Or even if I was excited about it, it wouldn't last because my body would begin to feel, oh, this is not safe. This is not okay. Because even though I wasn't currently in a trauma, I wasn't currently experiencing something that was unsafe, my body did not know the difference because it's reading the energy. It's reading the energy of the room. It's reading the energy of the experience. And for me, it tied back to my inability to receive. And my inability to receive was tied to a direct experience, right, with my mother. And I'm not going to go totally into that because I'm still working on healing my mother relationship, and it's I'm not ready to divulge all of that information. But what I can tell you is this journey that I went on into my cells to clear the flags that were alerting to the universe and alerting my body that it wasn't unsafe, to clear those flags, basically changing the light from red to green, so that when I move forward and I have an experience, right, that has the same energetic signature of whatever that trauma was, that it would no longer go into fight, flight, or freeze. It would no longer tell the universe, this is not safe. It is not safe for you to receive. This isn't going to last. It's not going to come back. We have to hold on. We have to barricade. We got to build a wall. Holy shit, we have to protect ourselves, right? That's what was going on in my body. And it wasn't just with the unworthiness or the not enoughness, it was with the shame as well, which interfered with intimacy. So all of this work that I've done, all which was necessary, it was all not for nothing, but I was missing a piece, and that is the unconscious body, right? So anytime I lead a healing course or experience, I am always bringing channeled information through, and I always have amazing insights, and this was one of them. This was something that is huge in transfer. Just, it's mind blowing, because we get so focused on the subconscious, on the emotions, on the inner children, and on the ego, that we don't realize that that is not our body. Our body is our unconscious animal self. It's only looking for pain, or it's only experiencing pain or pleasure. And so, and again, it's reading the energy of whatever experience you are having. And if the energetic signature is close to or the same as the environment of which that trauma occurred, your body's going to get flagged. And then your body, again, is the one communicating. So I thought I was going crazy. I was like, I've done the mindset work. I've done the emotional work. I've done the inner child work, right? I have de-rolled myself with my ego. I have really am in a good place. And yet I go to do things, or I go to have relationships, or to speak, or to do something, and it doesn't happen for me. And I'm so aware of my body, you guys, that I could feel that uncomfortableness or that ick in my body when I would do something. And it never made sense to me. I couldn't put it all together. And it was because I was not bringing the unconscious body into the picture. I wasn't working and communicating with my actual cellular memory, right? Which is much different than your inner children and your emotions themselves. And that's what's important. So when I go and do DNA work, I work on the DNA. The DNA are like little tiny antennas that are running through our body, right? They're antennas, and our cells attach to those antennas, and then it gets beaconed out like a radio broadcast. Okay. So when I work on the DNA and I'm restructuring it and clearing vows and healing breaks and allowing it to be fully lit, illuminated, powerful, right? Bringing all that back in. There was a piece that recently had started to come in, and it was more work on the cellular level and not so much on the DNA level. And everything has now come into place. So those cells that are attracting to those lightning rods, those DNA strands, and beaconing out, we're still, right? We're still beaconing out the wrong information. And we are all just walking antennas. This is why we're experiencing with these solar storms and the plasma and crystalline and photonic energy that's coming in. A lot of times like yesterday, when the energy shifted and the energy started coming in, it comes in through my head and out my feet. So this is how I experience it. Literally, it feels like plasma, or that kind of jelly kind of liquid. It feels like it's pouring out of my feet. It's hot. And I had it coming in my ears and in the top of my head yesterday. And then about 2:30, I got taken down. I had to lay down. I was in so much pain from the activity coming in. I had to ground and breathe it through. And so it just proves over and over again that we are walking antennas, that we are vessels, right, to hold our light and all of this information. So how do you heal the trauma that you don't even know, right? So many of us, we have blackouts in our childhood. We don't remember things. We don't remember what happened to us, or if something even happened to us, right? Let alone other lifetimes or our ancestors. So what I have decided to do is create a 7-week healing journey, right? 7 weeks, 7 transmissions. And these are the transmissions that came through for me to help me heal and release the flag, release the warning system, right? It's like clearing the check engine light when it's a false alarm. We're clearing those check engine lights from our cells and allowing the experiences that are of the same energetic match to now be okay, right? That we know that our body, our gut will alert us if it's an actual emergency, right? And that when things like putting out a new offer, walking up to make a new friend, right? Having intimacy in your relationship shows up, our body doesn't go into fight, flight, or freeze when it's not actually an emergency. And so we need to clear those flags on a cellular level. So I wanted to put something together to really support everybody who is going through this huge death and rebirth that's happening right now collectively on the planet. And so many people are having all these past issues come up, or these icky emotions, or even sick and just tired. And there's so much cellular changes going on. And this is going to be something that will support anything else that you are doing. In addition to however you are working with your mindset, in addition to however you are working with sitting with your emotions, right? And something magical occurs when people come into a closed container with me that I have found when I connect with people. And you can attest to this if you have ever worked with me privately. Once you are in my energy, once I have permission and communication with your higher self, and this collective is formed, messages begin to come in. So in this group, while you're not going, it's not a course or anything like that. It is going to be a very supportive and grace experience in this container. So you're going to have other people who are experiencing and moving through this, having these aha moments, these realizations, feeling that lightness take form within them after clearing these false alarms in their cells, and having me to be there to hold that space and to bring forth any messages that show up for you at any given day, right? And so I really wanted to share this with you. And let me tell you about my results so far for me personally, right? So if you know me, you know I do everything for myself before I share it with the world. Anytime I would put an offer out, right? Because for me, I shows up mostly in my business, or have to sit down and speak to my husband. So again, that intimacy, I would feel this fear in my body. I would feel this tightness, this ick in my belly. I would feel this tightness in my chest. And I have my techniques to bring me back into center, but we are manifesting at such a high rate of speed right now that it would still interfere with that communication. And I would not have the success or the results that I was looking for, that I thought I was worthy of, that I thought was going to show up for me because of that false communication coming out of my body. And what I can tell you is today, in this moment, as I put out offers, as I share this with you now, as I have sat and had beautiful communication with my husband, those alarms are no longer going off in my body. I was able to have a very intimate, important conversation with my husband that would normally have me freaking out, wanting to defend myself, wanting to protect, wanting to lose my mind. And instead, I was able to do it in a very calm, methodical, loving space. And I didn't take it personally. And I didn't go into cocooning myself and feeling like this isn't a safe place to have this conversation. And when I have been working with clients and putting offers out there and sharing, and even yesterday doing my interview, I normally get all kinds of crazy before I speak. I didn't have any of that. I felt worthy of receiving. I felt open to sharing. It was a different experience in my body. And this is the importance of this work, is that we can do the surface level, just the mindset work. We can just do the inner child work. But if we're not bringing all pieces together, and if you listen to the November energy update, you know that we are coming into union. And coming into union for me is all parts and pieces of ourselves being accepted, being loved, and brought into coherence, right? So a lot of times we get this inner conflict, right? Our cognitive, conscious, higher self, or even our mind, right? Our 3D mind, if you will, knows the truth about something. But the body, the cells in the body are saying a different story. So when that happens, there's inner conflict. And this inner conflict can happen between the heart and the body, the heart and the mind, or all three. And it can come in and feel like overload. It can feel like anxiety. It can feel like overwhelm, right? It can feel like acid reflux. It can feel like stomach aches. It can feel like gut issues, digestive issues. Inner conflict is a serious thing that's happening right now because we're doing all the upper level work. We've gone from 3D, dense in a box way of doing everything on autopilot, listening to the rules that are given to us and just being robots, to the other side of the spectrum where it's all higher self, 5D, high vibrational. And somewhere in the middle is the body. And the body is saying, hello, I need to catch up with you. So coming into union is about uniting all parts and pieces of ourselves and getting everybody on the same message, right? Getting everybody in the same program, getting them on the same page. If you can relate to this, please let me know that this is something that you have experienced or are like, yes, this makes so much sense. I want to know what your thoughts are about this. Because remember, at the end of the day, a traumatic situation is how your body is processing the mental or emotional information that it's being given. It's how it's processing it, right? So a stranger walking by and snatching a lollipop out of a child's hand can be a traumatic experience. It's the same way that abuse can be, right? So you cannot judge your traumatic experience to someone else's because our body experiences it the same way. It's just the way that our body is responding to it. And so it creates that flag, it creates that alert, and it begins to keep us safe from having any kind of experience that's an energetic match to it. And we need to clear this. We need to allow this to not be the case. Okay. So if you're feeling called to this 7-week healing experience, it's called Frustrated to Manifested. It is, like I said, 7 weeks, 7 transmissions, the support of the group, the love from me and everybody else who's going to be doing it with you. And as a bonus, the first time people join, this is the first run of it, you will actually get to own the MP3 downloads. You won't just get access to listen to them. So that's quite the gift in itself. There will be a link in the description box below if you want to learn more or snatch that up. We're going to be starting next week. And if it doesn't call to you, that's okay. But I really invite you to begin to connect and learn to when an experience happens, when you go to do something or speak to somebody, to bring more awareness into your physical body. And not just what the thoughts are, not just the story that's playing, right? And not just the emotions that you feel, but where it actually lives in your body. And begin to connect all the dots, right? And this is the deep experience we're having in the soul flow. But I invite you to start bringing and up-leveling your awareness to include your body and bringing all three into alignment, right? So that this pattern, this programming can stop once and for all. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.